The good old messenger birds. All right, I'm going to properly hit up. Twitter right now. I made my tweet this morning. You guys probably saw my tweet this morning. You maniacs. I've been thinking about this one, and today was the day to tweet it. I wish you a Niji Sanji Christmas is now a threat. Christmas will never be the same for Niji Sanji, right? Like, no matter what happens, it's going to be infamous. Uh-oh. We got the troublemaker in chat. Uh-oh. Dang, girl, what are you up to? Hold on a second. Let me just DM you. Also open up some other lines of communications here. 1 second, boys and girls. All right, let me try to give a call here.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
Oh, it's a fine, bright, beautiful Sunday. It's a beautiful morning out here. Yeah.
Glad to hear.
Oh my goodness.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Thanks for stopping in.
Of course.
I have to ask, when did you see the news today?
Pretty much maybe about half an hour after it dropped, because I happened to wake up at like 3 a.m. and I was like, well, nothing else to do, so.
Lucky.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Lucky, yes.
I mean, if I may ask, what's going through your mind right now? What have you been thinking this morning?
If I'm being honest, so in order, it was like I saw that and I thought, I'm happy that said person can be free, and I hope they can be happy. Because that's all that a certain other friend wanted, like a certain other friend just wanted everyone to be happy and get what they deserved instead of constantly being treated horribly. But, people wouldn't understand that, right? People don't see that on the outside. So, what can you do? You can't take down a whole corporation, so you can only just do what you can to try to make people believe. But, aside from that, it was like, okay, like I saw a lot of people DMing me or adding me and saying, I'm sorry for all the mean things and stuff. And that meant a lot, At the same time, like it made me feel very numb, I guess, a lot of it, right? Like I can't really I feel relieved a little bit, It's like I never, it hurts when people hate you for something that you tried to do out of goodwill, even if you're wrong, if you're right or wrong. But it also just hurts to have like people just say these things and stuff. And, at this point, it's kind of like I felt relieved just to be hated less, I guess. Because, I'd rather be hated for things I actually did, You know, that's all. I don't mind being hated for things I did. Um, and at the same time, I felt kind of numb because, you know, the damage had already been done. You know, I'd already been had a lot of things said about me, already had people trying to dox me and stuff, and, you know, basically bully my friends out of being my friends anymore, make it so that I can't be around people publicly, you know? People would avoid me publicly when we would go to conventions. So it was like, it would be nice if from now on, maybe I don't have to feel as, like, avoided and stuff, but, you know, at the same time, like, you know, seeing what's happening now and, like, all the follows I've been getting and stuff and the support, it meant a lot, but seeing my, like, Twitter followers or my YouTube followers go up, I also felt a lot of PTSD from, like, last time, right?
Yeah.
Um, it, like, you know, I just saw the number go up and I was like, "Oh," I kind of made me feel a little anxious because I know this time it's a good reason, right? Like, people are, you know, here to actually, you know, be allies this time, but it kind of felt like, "Oh, no," like, how many people are following me for more drama? And, like, how many people, right, are just spying on me again?
And you know, you may never know, right? But at the same time, you can work with what you have. I think it's you talk about, you know, people not knowing,
Mhm,
and I think that's a great point because they don't maybe wholly understand what you've gone through in the last year. I think, you
mhm,
know, even like 6 months in, random voices here and there. We always go
mhm.
to the worst of the voices, but they say, "Why is she still talking about this? It was 6 months ago," and in my
Yeah,
mind, I'm like, it was only 6 months ago, you maniacs. It was 6 months ago. That's
thank
barely any
you.
time. I understand that's a long time in VTuber years.
It
I get
is,
that.
yeah, it is,
But
but yeah.
in your actual life, that's a very short amount of time. And especially for such a big amount of events that happen to you. Um, how's the last year been? Has it been up? Has it been down? How have you been?
Well, definitely like you said, right? Like, it like, when the document went out, it was like, "Oh, yeah, you know, like, she said her piece." You know, you would think, like, she's done. She said a lot, 22 pages. Originally, that document was 35 pages, so there was a lot more that didn't get said because either because it wasn't, right to say in that way, or it couldn't be said because it would risk contract breaking a little too much.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of hard because, like, every time something would happen or maybe even things didn't happen, you know, some days you just have bad mental days, right? And you would still just I would just be doing my thing, you know, streaming or whatever, but sometimes it would hurt, you know? There would be something that reminds you, or something that happens, you know, like your friends are hanging out again, they're having fun and everybody's, you know, having a nice life and stuff, and you're the only one left out, and you're going, "It doesn't feel fair." You know? It doesn't feel fair, like, all you did was trying to defend them or try to make the world aware of what they were going through, but it didn't work, and now you're just left to be kind of like a nobody, and your community gets bullied too. Like, people who are supporting me, friends in my own community, now had to pick a side and now had to be in war, like, all the time, like, throughout that whole year, anyone people became like warriors and tried to defend me on YouTube and stuff, and I felt sad that they had to do that. Like, it really made me sad that they had to, you know, be so strong and do so much, and so there were some times where, you know, maybe 6 months in, maybe 9 months in, even after everything happened, you know, like, sometimes it would just feel so bad and so sad. It's like, "Why do I exist?" You know, like, should I just not, right? Because it doesn't feel like anything will get better. It doesn't feel like people will ever understand or see, and that's why things would come out, right? Sometimes it's like, "Oh, well, this was in my document or whatever," and I you know, you can't say it, right? Or sometimes I would make mistakes and I would say something, you know, like, I didn't even think about the play button thing until it happened. Thankfully, people had already kind of noticed that the play button was not, was not really a thing. But there were still so many other smaller things that I still can't say that I saw while I was there. Cause like I really tried to get into like why certain things were there that way, or why, as my friend was that way, or why these things were like that, and try to negotiate with them. And there was a lot, you know, that got to be seen, but it's not like I can say that. It's not like, my friend can say that either. So yeah, there's just a lot that people will not see, and they don't really need to. They just, now they know, I hope, but that's why things would come out, like that's why, I made the mistake or of saying like, oh, this gen or this thing was bad or this was a flop or something. It's because it upsets you, like even if you don't really feel that way, you kind of like, because I've been a streamer for so long, you kind of have to look at like the facts and think, okay, this kind of thing is declining. In the VTuber space, you have to look at analytics. What's not working? What's declining, right? Oh, well, this next gen or whatever is declining, maybe for these reasons, but it's the truth, right? People don't like hearing it, but it's just what it is. And maybe it hurts for me for people to say it. Maybe I shouldn't have said it, but it's like that, right? Like you just, as time goes on, it feels like more of a pent up bottle, and you just end up releasing more and more things. And it's hard to just stay silent and say nothing.
Absolutely. And, looking back at the last year, not to dwell on it, but
Hmm.
were you surprised by some of the reactions and how extreme they were, one way or the other?
To,
Anything that happened here, right? So we
oh,
have,
yeah.
You were mentioning people potentially even getting to the point of doxing, right? And
Hmm.
I don't know if any of this was surprising to you in the reaction outside of the actual actions you had taken or not.
Um, yeah. I mean, it was kind of like I was seeing some of the ripples of things, that the document had done or that people had said, but I was also very much of the mindset of like, oh my God, nothing's gonna change, and it's gonna be so sad in so many ways, right? Like not only do the people there not get to be happy, but then like it will, the people who do exit and leave, everyone will just blindly flock to them and think they're like, think and they get to be happy more like, like they're great people. They all are. And
Hmm.
but at the same time, it was very toxic, there because of the mindset that everyone was forced to have, which is, I remember being told before, um, by somebody who was, a senpai. They said, this is just how being in a company is. And I remember that so much, and I remember thinking, "No, this is not how it is," like, am I wrong? And I had nothing to stand on because 'cause I'd never been in a company or anything in this space, right? Like, I'd worked at Apple, I worked at Google, and a lot of, people on Twitter would say, "Has she never worked for a real company? How she never worked for a real, in the real world?" And I'm like, "No, yeah, it that may No, it's not how it's supposed to be. But I remember getting told that, and I'm like, I have nothing to prove it, right? Like, it's not the same space. So, yeah. And it just felt like it's, that's part of why, our friend left is because it wasn't going to change, is constantly just what it felt like.
That actually was kind of leading to my next question. I mean,
Hmm.
do you see any possible course correction here, or does this just like look like more of the same for you now? Is it, because I imagine much of
Hmm.
it is reminding you of your own friend's experience. Uh,
Um, yeah, it's definitely reminiscent of that. Um, I actually was very, very surprised to hear them terminate Selene. But also at the same time, I was not, because after this kind of silence or this kind of like, let's assume they suspended her, I kind of, it's the same thing, right? You kind of, I was not surprised that they were going to do that afterwards, and I'm not surprised it was a surprise to Selene as well, because it's what it is, what it was, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so that it was surprising that they'd go this far, like with like a 3-page thing. I was like, oh goodness.
I couldn't believe it.
can't believe
I
it.
just could not believe it. I woke up, my eyes bugged out when I saw that they had done it again. And
Right.
this time around, they tried to make it even look more quote unquote professional.
Yeah,
They didn't do
professional, right.
just an outright bullet point list.
Yeah,
But it's the same thing. It's out of the same playbook.
Right.
And I'll say that, personally, I know they had tried to do this before, but, it's just looking like a year in, nothing's been changed. And it looks like that's kind of the environment. There's no internal mechanism for even critique, any kind of criticism that can actually internally change these kind of mistakes. I don't know if you'd like to say anything to that, or if you have, from now the outside looking in, any kind of impressions about, what the future holds.
You know what? Sure. So definitely, I think, well, I guess to start off with, I'm surprised definitely to not see any kind of change. It was kind of funny, almost. It's almost comedic, actually, to see that, like chat was saying, it's like, hey, this next termination letter is longer than yours. I'm like, oh no, man,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The record's been broken today. I'm sorry.
Know. I was like, I don't have the record anymore. That's also kind of sad. It's a sad day. Sad day. Very sad day. So that's unfortunate. I was shocked that it was so much longer. And yes, it does feel like they tried to make it more professional than a, bullet point list. I get it. Bullet points don't look very professional. So yeah. I will say that it was very apparent to my friends that early on, and as things went on throughout the months, that things would not change, and there was no way to convince even her manager or the her manager's manager, because she was, like the document says, in contact with the manager's manager, often talked to them. And it was just a constant. For one, her manager would echo what her manager said. So you would think speaking directly to the manager's manager would maybe solve things or work things out. And unfortunately not. There was one point where, I might get struck for this, but it's not that big of a deal, honestly. Hopefully. But there was one point, actually, when my friend was new to the company that the management actually wanted to cancel hand cams completely and ban them.
Yes. We remember reporting on that. Yeah.
And what happened there was, there had to be like a big. That was like one of the only times, and I found out it was a very, very rare thing to have all of like the livers and have like actually upper management that you never see or never speak to there, and to PowerPoint why they were doing it. And then there was a constant battle between the livers and the upper management about why this would be bad and why this would not work. And a lot of the the defending statements was, this is the way global works. This is the global market. Global market wants to see more of their people, their Oshis that they love. They want to see that. It is part of their immersion rather than an immersion break. And their defense on the management side was that it was an immersion break, right?
When you love the environment,
helping expand access for all.
It was not in Japan culture, VTubing culture, and it was actually, a minus rather than a plus. And so, that was kind of the moment where it was like, oh yeah, like I definitely see the differences between the global and Japanese market. It's completely opposite in a lot of the times, but they did not care, and they were telling us it was merely just the EN side that were there. And so this was just a rule for the ENs. This was just an EN side meeting, which meant you were telling us the same thing against our own global audience, right? You're telling us you won't adjust or won't do something that we need to do for global audience. So, thankfully it was fought back enough, but that was only because we had people on the EN side that spoke Japanese, and they were basically translating what we were saying to the JP side. Most of them didn't speak English.
I think we're actually seeing that today and in the past week. We just addressed this, but it seems that a good contingent of the Japanese audience just do not have the context here at
They don't,
all.
right? I heard you say that, and I don't think they do either. A lot of them. I actually spoke to, gosh, can I say this? I spoke to somebody who was who cared about my friend a lot, and was very important to her. And they were Japanese, right? Japanese born, raised there,
Mhm.
and they could not understand. They could not understand what had happened really, and they were just really sad because now she had become this symbol of negativity, right? And he really cared about her and her design and everything, and it really made him sad. And then she spoke to him and said, well, this is what happened, right? This is what actually happened. And it was hard for him to understand it still because he said, yeah, like, I don't know, they're such a big company, and their influence is just really big, and I don't know if I can go against that.
We have something that we're going to be talking about probably in early April that talks to that. I'm sitting on something that talks to exactly that kind of influence and that kind of actual shifting of power that this particular company does actually use. So we will be talking to that point, but it's a very real force. We note this from time to time. They're worth 2.2 billion with a B US dollars.
Yep.
Their CEO is a billionaire with a B. You can go into any number of select stores throughout Japan and just find their merchandise and entire shelves and shelves and shelves of their merchandise, right? Like it's a major company, and yet I'm so confused because it doesn't seem like we understand where the investment is going. It's just not wholly evident. Just to maybe think on it, was there things that lined up to your expectations, but was there also things that did not line up to your expectations? More to your point, your friend's expectations of the support, perhaps?
Like being in the company?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess for one, like, the amount of support, like, if you wanted to do like a cover song or something, or if you want to do, like an original song, like, would it be paid for? No. So that's one big one.
Yeah.
Was there any support for like mental health things? Like, if you want a therapist, maybe, but not that I was aware of. Or not that she was aware of either. So, I don't think anyone was really hearing much of that. And then I think honestly, there was no, like, the only one support I can think of was for like singing lessons. Then yeah, I think I'm trying to think of if there was any other like support things. Yeah, I can't really think of anything support wise. I even heard that payment and stuff for conventions was bad for a lot of them. And it was like, they would be guaranteed to go to the convention, do a signing for a couple hours, but then they'd go over and they wouldn't be paid for like the overtime, things like that. Yeah, I can't think of anything that was like extra support. I think the big thing was I remember senpais complaining before about that they had to perform in, overseas in like Japan or something. So they would be flown out to Japan to perform, but they would be flown out on economy flights. And, that was during the time of COVID. And unfortunately, there was a lot of, people who would be sick. And then like one of the senpais had a complaint that, oh, I could get sick like right before the performance and stuff. So that wasn't really the safest thing. Like for me, I was like, oh, the economy flight doesn't sound so bad, but until you think that they have to perform and they have to be in good health, right? Then you think, oh, right, so that was kind of not great. Yeah. So a lot of extra things like that just, I don't know. A lot of the time it was like, well, why not? Like where's the money all going and where's the support all going? So
This is interesting. I saw here in chat, there's a popular VTuber account, VTubers Out of Context.
Oh, yeah.
They've given an update here. While they've been posted less frequently due to constant graduations and bad news in light of recent and past events, Nijisanji will no longer be supported here until the company has shown to care about their community and their own streamers.
Wow.
And we're seeing a little bit of that today. We're seeing a little bit of that today. Perhaps, some tide is actually shifting here with what we're seeing out of the reactions out of this today. I don't know if you've seen some of the reactions out of this. Obviously, people are reaching out to you, but
yeah. But that's amazing. Wow.
I mean, is this a moment of catharsis for you? Is this a moment of justification for you, rightfully so or not? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unbelievable, honestly. It feels like I'm in an alternate timeline all of a sudden. Like it really feels like I like shifted back in time and this is like, right after the document got released or something, it feels like really, really surreal. I'll be honest. It's I don't have any words for it other than like, this is not something at all that I see for myself. Okay, this is something that my friend wanted for everyone who was there and who is there. Okay, like she did not, and everyone didn't want it to come to this kind of thing, of course, and no one imagined it would come to this, and no one imagined it would have to go like this. But there's a point where sometimes you have to, right? Like this is one of those times where maybe the internet will come together and something positive, and like it's crazy to see people. I mean, I'm not saying like boycotting is always the answer or it's correct or anything like that, but it's saying like, when sometimes you're faced with a brick wall that's stronger than you, you kind of have to, it's really nice to see everyone come together and defend everybody.
Now, you've talked about a very particular point that I think bears repeating here, but you or perhaps your friend had stated to some of those within the company that they are more valuable than they maybe understand, right?
Yeah.
Like they are perhaps not in a position where they see how valuable they are.
Yeah.
And that is something that they need to be told.
Yeah. And I want to say really quickly, since I can't, I cannot directly message this person and in order to say this, but I do want to say that I am sorry because I made a mistake at one point. At one point, I just got overwhelmed by emotion and you just feel angry at the world. I felt angry at the world for a long time.
Saluda nuestra aún más calentita, jugosa y sabrosa Double Cheeseburger. También despídete.
PlayStation. Ever since, a lot of this started. And, I was trying to have people listen to me. So I said something that I shouldn't have, something that somebody who was my senpai entrusted me with, and spoke to me in private about, that they didn't, their lack of confidence and, feeling like they weren't anything and stuff, that line that I said was not for me to share. and even though they had said like they felt like insecure on their own, on their own in their own way, it wasn't right for me to share that, and I want to say I am very sorry for that. I didn't mean to do it in that way. I really just wanted people to understand, so I didn't say it in malice, and I'm sorry to them for that.
So again, a monumental day. We've not seen a reaction like this. I mean, we have a community note
Yeah.
on the main announcement. Just an absolute outright rejection from the vast majority. And it's really interesting today because we also have VTubers just outright coming out and saying this doesn't look right to us, right? Artists and VTubers. It's just, it feels like this has changed. Any other thoughts on this? Anything else you'd like to say in retrospect or going forward on all of this here today?
I think the biggest thing was like what impacted me a lot before was that it was shocking how a lot of the people who were trying to dox me and who were trying to attack me before, when everything, when the first document came out, it hurt to think that those were the fans that had shown so much love and support to the company and that she had been that my friend had been from, and like that all these people who were allies, and all these people that loved all the other a lot of the other people who were still at that company would go ahead and be like, yeah, we're going to attack this person, we're going to attack me for being not there, or for being like this person that they hate just because of all this. And I think that hurt a lot. Is just like, you never understand what it feels like to be hated on the internet and to be attacked with everything for something that, maybe for a mistake you made, but even for things that you didn't do, right? Like either way, it's still like that. So I guess one thing I'm grateful for is that after this, I had a lot better understanding of how people felt, and more sympathy towards, bullying in general, but cyberbullying and, things that people say to each other. And I guess cancel culture as well, right? Like it's very, very cruel. And a lot of us, know that cancel culture is bad, but, you won't know exactly how bad until you're the face of it. And you can't do anything to stop it. You can't negotiate with people. People just won't listen to you, even if you are right. And I think that's, now I definitely have a better understanding of it. I commissioned a 3D artist recently that, unfortunately recently there was some, unfortunate events that came up that made it so that my model showed up in their clips where people were saying, this is not good, and I had no idea. And so I tweeted out and said, yeah, like, in light of recent events, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say I'm going to continue with this person. So I'm no longer commissioning them, but please do not harass them. Please do not. I know they're getting death threats. I know they are getting, very mean things said to them, and nobody deserves that, right? And it's just, sure, they're going to lose business. They're going to be hated already, and that's their punishment. Like, we don't have to tell people to go off themselves. We don't have to tell people to to do all these things. It's not fair, right? So that's why I want to leave this off on. Like, you can tell someone you dislike what they do or that you don't like it. You are free to dislike anything you want. Just, it is not your right to tell somebody horrible things.
So enough of the horrible stuff. What do you got coming up? What's on your plate? What are you up to?
Well, I have some things in the works that I cannot speak about because they are currently happening. But there are some merchandising things that are very exciting that I'm looking forward to. And that's gonna be fun. It'll come soon, guys. And aside from that, yeah, I'm still kind of I know you spoke about this, and I really appreciate that you did. Like I still can't believe I'm in Genshin ads. I am the Genshin ad. Yeah, that's shocking to me. Like I met up with some family recently, saw my like younger cousin,
Oh,
and
wild.
she's in like
Oh
high
my goodness.
school, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that was you! I got your ad on my YouTube." I was like, "Oh no!" So that was really funny. And I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, it's been a very fun time. So that's exciting. There's a lot more things that are happening later in the year that I can't talk about yet.
Ooh.
So yeah, like I hope you guys will look forward to them. And yeah, thank you guys for the support. It really means a lot.
Well, I again just want to take a moment to not just thank you for speaking your piece today, but sharing with us in the community over the last year, right?
Aw.
I'm sure it's been a lonely time. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
been an intimidating time, and yet you're here, and very clearly you have
Aw.
bigger plans than ever. So we're very, very excited to see what you do next.
Thank you so much, False. That really means so much to me, and thank you for all the support you've shown. Like you're in your unbiased opinion as much as you could too. So thank you. That means a lot.
Anything else for you today, or gonna chill out for the rest of the day? Maybe any plans?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like, oh well. I mean, the wind knocked down my fence, so I gotta figure out how to fix my fence.
Oh no.
Yeah. That's exciting, and guess I'll get lunch, but that's the
Okay.
thing. So, but thank you so much for having me on. It meant a lot to be able to, speak to everybody and speak to you and, just tell everybody that what you guys are fighting for, it's fighting for something, it's fighting for so many people, not just us. And, it means a lot to see the community come together in this great way. It's surreal to me still. And it makes me feel like, it was worth sticking around and worth, you know, not making, well, not succeeding in my attempts to do things, to do bad things. Um, and that yeah, it feels like it's just crazy to think that there was a reason for me to be around now. It really is. So thank you. Thank you guys.
Thank you. And once again, the truth has this crazy habit of coming out after some time. So
Yeah,
more to come. Trust me, you're not going to be the only one releasing
definitely.
some information to come throughout the year. But I want to thank you again for stopping in.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you, thank you,
course.
thank you.
Thank you so much for
And
having me, False. Thank you.
have a great day.
You too,
Bye.
Pam. See you later.